Over just 1 week, Elon Musk dropped a bunch of posts that, by themselves, were pretty interesting. But when you start connecting the dots, a really clear picture starts to form. It looks like a massive strategic shift for Tesla. So let's decode what he just laid out for everyone.
So that's the big question, right? Is this just Elon being Elon, posting random stuff? Or are we actually looking at a carefully laid out roadmap for where Tesla's heading? That's exactly what we're going to try and figure out.
All right, so here's how we're going to break this all down. First, we're going to look at these four key signals from Elon. Then, we'll dive into what they mean for the Optimus robot, for the size of their autonomy fleet, and of course, for the new Cybercab. And finally, we'll pull it all together and see if we can piece together the master plan.
Okay, so it all kicks off with four pretty crucial announcements. And the key thing here is they all happened one right after the other. These aren't just, minor software updates. These feel like strategic signposts. So here are the four clues, the four pieces of the puzzle. We've got a new, sped-up timeline for the Optimus robot. Then there's this really bold declaration about the size of Tesla's autonomous fleet. We also got a progress update on Grok 4.2, which hints at bigger AI advances. And finally, something real, the very first production Cybercab, plus a price confirmation. Let's dig into each of these.
First up, let's talk about Optimus. This whole thing kicked off when a major analyst, a really bullish one by the way, put out a timeline, but then Elon himself jumped in to correct it by making it even more aggressive. And you have to look at who set the original timeline. We're talking about ARK Invest, one of Tesla's absolute biggest supporters. They were projecting Optimus would start transforming life around 2028 or 2029. But Elon publicly corrects them and pulls that timeline forward a whole year to 2027. I mean, that is a huge acceleration.
And get this, he didn't just drop one date. He actually laid out a whole 3-year roadmap. He says it begins to transform things in 2027. Then, by 2028, it'll be obvious to everyone. And by 2029, it's going to have a massive impact. He's not being vague here. He is planting a flag on some very specific dates.
All right, let's move on to the next clue. This one dropped just a day later, and it was a massive statement about the future size of Tesla's self-driving fleet.
I mean, listen to the language here. He didn't say Tesla might have the largest fleet, or that it would for a little while. He said Tesla will have the largest fleet, as far into the future as I can imagine. That's not just a projection. That is a statement of total, absolute conviction.
Okay, so let's put that claim into perspective. You've got Waymo, right? They've been at this for over 10 years, and they have about 3,000 cars. Tesla, on the other hand, launched their service just 8 months ago, and they're already closing in on 400. Clearly, Elon isn't just looking at today's numbers. He's betting on the slope of that curve, the trajectory.
So, the really critical piece here is how they're planning to scale up. A lot of competitors, they rely on remote human operators to handle tricky situations. But Tesla is going for what they call true edge autonomy. That means every single decision happens inside the car on its own software. And that is the key that could unlock truly massive, rapid scaling.
Okay, so just to recap, we've got a faster timeline for the robot and a huge statement about fleet dominance. And then the actual hardware shows up. This is where it all stops being talk and starts getting real.
This post was huge. It announced that the very first production Cybercab just rolled off the line at Texas. We're not talking about a concept car or some one-off prototype. This is a production unit, built from the ground up with no steering wheel, no pedals. The assembly line is officially running. And then came the price tag. Somebody asked him straight up on X, will Tesla sell a Cybercab for 30 grand or less before 2027? And his answer was just a simple, direct yes. Wow. That's an incredibly aggressive price and a very firm deadline.
Now, this whole thing actually ties back to a public bet that was made earlier this year. You probably know the famous tech reviewer MKBHD. Well, he was so sure Tesla couldn't pull this off, he actually promised to shave his head on camera if they did.
So, of course, after all this Cybercab news, someone reminded Elon about the bet. And his reply? Just 2 words. Gonna happen. I mean, he is publicly and very, very directly doubling down on all of these promises. So there you have it. 4 massive signals all in 1 week. A faster timeline for Optimus, a declaration of total fleet dominance, and now we've got real production hardware with a confirmed price. I think it's time we connect these dots and try to see the master plan.
And this is what it looks like. Think of it as an autonomy flywheel, where each part makes the others spin faster. It all starts with the data pouring in from every Tesla with FSD, which makes the core AI better and better. That smarter AI is what makes the Robotaxi service possible. Then, the Cybercab comes in as the purpose-built hardware to scale that service like crazy. But it's not just about cars. The Optimus robot runs on the exact same AI stack. And the fuel for this whole engine? That's Grok, which is being built to rapidly improve the neural net that everything, and I mean everything, relies on.
Okay, but let's be real, it's totally fair to be skeptical here, right? We've all heard ambitious timelines from Elon before. So let's tackle the most common objections head on. So the first big one is, yeah, but he's missed timelines before. And that's true. The difference this time, though, is that we're seeing actual physical hardware, the Cybercab, rolling off the line. It's not just a promise anymore. The next objection is that we're just cherry-picking his posts. But if you look, these 4 were pretty much the only substantive strategic posts he made all week. And finally, you'll hear that Grok isn't technically Tesla. And okay, legally they're separate companies, but it's pretty obvious that Elon sees and runs all of this as one big interconnected AI ecosystem.
So where do we go from here? What should you be watching for? Well, here are the key milestones. We should be seeing an Optimus Gen 3 reveal this quarter. Keep an eye out to see if Cybercab mass production really does start in April. Grok 4.2 is supposed to ship this week or next, so we'll see about that. And of course, we're all going to be watching that MKBHD bet to see if Tesla can deliver a sub-$30,000 Cybercab before 2027. These are the real-world gut checks for this whole roadmap.
So in the span of just 1 week, it really feels like Elon Musk laid all his cards on the table. What he's signaling here is a full-blown transition from being just a car company to becoming an autonomy and AI company. The roadmap is out there for everyone to see. The only question left now is, can they execute?